Let's do it.
Yeah, my brother lives in Bath.
What we're going to do is we're going to do a kind of calisthenic pace program where you're using your own body weight, and we're going to do one set of 12 minutes. It's 14 exercises, and before we start it, we're going to go through and demonstrate the exercises. They're mostly ones that you are already familiar with, things you've done since calisthenics in grade school. I'm going to time it, and we're going to do each exercise for 1 minute.
Demonstrate, and then we'll go through it. So just know that we'll be wandering through, helping you here. Okay?
And this is my PACE certified trainer, JD, and he'll be demonstrating so that I can talk. I would just do the whole thing myself, but then I have a hard time focusing on the time and the direction. So he's going to help to keep the cadence. So you follow the cadence. You don't have to keep the same time as him, but I'll tell you, as a group, it looks a lot better if you do.
For the video, yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to start off very slow. Remember, we have 12 minutes of continuous exercise. So you can't go willy-nilly at the beginning or you're going to tire yourself out. So he'll set the pace very modest at first. And then you could think of it in thirds. The first 4 minutes will be kind of a warm-up. The second 4 minutes will be moderate activity. And then those last 4 minutes will gear up towards increasing intensity, and the last 2 minutes will be significantly high intensity. Now, if we were doing this regularly, we would do that a little bit more so, so that you were all achieving a high heart rate during that last minute. For now, we're just going to kind of teach the principle and not try to do it too hard because you're not used to it. And this will be your first time in this particular routine, right? All right, everybody with me? All right, so first the exercises. The first one is a march. We call it a majorette march, where you go like this.
Marching. Majorette march.
It's just to get your blood flowing. The second, all right, enough of that. The second one is a front kick. For a front kick, I want you to do it with your feet about shoulder width apart, and you just shift your weight over one leg while you raise the other leg and kick it out. Then alternate back the other leg and kick it out. And this, we're not trying to do it fast, trying to get the circulation going. Nice, easy cadence. Some of you look bored. Don't worry, it's going to get harder. And then we have a side triple step. So it's kind of like if you were doing ballroom dancing. It's like triple step, tap, triple step, tap, triple step, tap. Now, I always like to move all the extremities, so we're going to add this. Wow, you guys are good dancers. All right, now this is the last of the warm-up exercises where we're going to do a half squat. Now this will vary depending on your fitness and your age and the shape of your knees. You got to be careful doing squats because you can put pressure on your knees. So nice and easy, and it's easier if you raise your hands as you go down as a counterbalance, like so.
Counterbalance with your hands. Very easy. Don't go lower than you feel comfortable.
Half squat. Got it? All right. Now we're going to increase to a little bit more of a challenge. Now this one you can make as hard as you want by how hard you stretch. What we're trying to do here is activate the gluteus, and to combat that problem I told you about where we tend to spend too much time in flexion. So this is an extension exercise where you bring your arms over your head and then keep going as you raise one leg back. You'll notice you're tensing your shoulders, your trap, the back of your neck, and your gluteus. So again, it's as hard as you want it to be. If you want to really strain, you can, if you are in better condition. So you're going to alternate extending your leg back while you extend your arms. I want to see your arms move a little bit more. As you extend your leg, you're extending your arm. You see how that has that effect? Stretching your spine. Reach up high, stretch behind your head. Told you they were going to get harder. Now, this one requires a little bit of balance. Do it nice and easy. And the point is not to kick high. You know, we're not Rockettes. You're just going to get your foot off the ground, kick, and then keep that same foot up and back kick.
Okay, so bring your foot up. Out.
Then put it back down where it came from. Pick up the other one, kick, back kick. This is working on your balance as well. Alternate. It's a good idea to do like JD is, and whenever you're moving your legs, it's intuitive to move the opposite arm. Contralateral. If you're kicking, you notice how, or raising your leg, you notice how that makes it intuitive, the motion you do when you run. Okay, now we're repeating that triple step that I showed you. Bap, bap, bap. Remember before you tapped? Now you're going to do with a leg raise. Instead of tapping, you leave your leg there and raise it.
Higher intensity for the step. Bring your leg up.
We just added that one little bit. Who knows what a Hindu squat is? All right. If you know, you know. These things can be tough. It depends on your form and your cadence, and we're going to do the easiest kind of Hindu squat. The Hindu squat is 1,000 years old at least, and it's meant to focus on your breathing. Remember, pace is about partly restoring your lung volume. Part of what we do in the modern world is we inhale and we hold our breath. We have to be reminded to exhale. The ancients knew that, and the Hindu squat is focused on that. It forces you to spend more of your time in exhalation. So here's how you do the movement. You go down and touch the ground. It's supposed to be behind your midfoot. Even your heel is better. It's a little hard, yeah. And then back up, and then draw your arms in. Go down, back up, draw your arms in. Now I'm going to teach you the breathing. This is the only part where you breathe in. All the rest, you're breathing out. Feel that? Isn't that a wonderful exercise? If you learn nothing else from this, do that every morning. My phone is, there it is. How do I get rid of that thing? Oh. He knew how to do that just because he's younger than me. Okay, now run in place. And when you run in place, I want you to utilize your arms, okay? Think pocket to ear, pocket to ear. So you're running like this. So we're getting, this is really going to get your heart rate up. Next, we're doing a double cadence jumping jack, which looks like this. Okay. You made that look so easy. Now here for the next 4 exercises, we're doing only 30 seconds. So we're doing 14 exercises for a 12-minute program because the last 4 you only do 30 seconds. The next one is this kind of football run, which you're gonna hate, but it burns. So you hold your arms out to the side while you this is like that inner tube running that you see them do in training camp. Next is another modified jumping jack. This one we call an A jack, and it's done like this. You're taking your shoulders out of that one. Now another run, and in this one we want to dig in while you're running like you're sprinting, and do that about 4 steps and then float back. So you're going to need a little bit of room. Run like this and then float back. Relax on your back movement. And when you run, try to like if you were running for the finish line at the very end. And then you relax on the way back. The last one is kind of like the first one, only you're going to do it really hard. So it's a high knee raise kind of run with your arms over your head like this. Okay, enough of that, it will wear you out. That's at the very end. Ready, JD? Let me.
Wait a second, is he talking or you're doing it? Is he gonna...
I'm doing it.
Okay.
Please watch your intensity. Go at your own level. Do not keep up with the Joneses. Okay? Know what your body is doing. Know how your heart rate is. Okay?
Relax the neck.
Control.
Relax the jaw. Back when I was a kid, my boxing coach told me that if I could relax my jaw, the rest of the body would follow suit. Now, that front of the hip, stretch that like this. You want to sink into it. Push your hip forward. That's it. You hold that for about 10 seconds.
You recommend breathing through the nose, out the mouth?
Yeah.
Or whatever you
Yeah. If you're too tired for that, you need more air, there's no harm in opening your mouth if you're panting. We want to generate a pant at some point. All right, change legs. Shoulder stretch. Clasp your hands together. Now try to push them back. Stretch the front of the shoulder. Okay, now once more you're going to combine them. Front of the hip. Now the shoulder stretch. And this one, try to stretch up while pushing your hips forward. Not too strenuously if you're not used to this, but you're stretching the hip flexor and extending the spine. Other leg. All right, last thing before we start our 12-minute program is I want you to take your pulse. We use this in almost all of our PACE programs. So you find your pulse, and then I'm going to start timing and tell you when to stop. Everybody ready? Start counting. 10 seconds left. Ready, 3, 2, 1, stop. That is 30 seconds, so you multiply that by 2, and that's your heart rate per minute. Now, in a pace training program, we would use that to measure the challenge. We would then see how conditioned you are to see how high your heart rate went after the instruction and the testing. And then we would monitor after the 12 minutes to see what change you made, and then if we are doing intervals, we would use that to determine how long you have to rest by when your heart rate returns back to within 30 beats of the resting heart rate. So what you just took was your before exercise session, not really resting, but a good goal would be for you to increase that by about 50. So if you got 70, a good goal for a single set is to get that up to at least 120. Now, as you got better at it, that 50 would change to 55, 60, 65, 70, and that's pace. Resetting. So your first exercise is the majorette march. We're going to begin in 3, 2, 1, start. Go with you. Next comes the front kick, and 3, 2, 1, start. Get ready to change to triple side step. In 3, 2, 1, go. Touch your head. Ten seconds. Now we're going to go to the half squat in 5, 3, 2, 1, half squat. Nice and easy, right? Ten seconds. Next, we're going to do the back leg extension in 3, 2, 1, go. Reach up, straighten your arms out. Feel it in the glute. 10 seconds. Now we're going to do the front back kick in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Going out front and taking it back. Opposite arm, leg. Lesson in coordination or not.
10 seconds. Next, we're going to do a triple step with a side leg raise. In 3, 2, 1. Looking good. You're now in the moderate part. Phone keeps shutting off. 10 seconds. After this, we're going to do the Hindu squat in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, begin. I see some sweat now. Thighs might start to burn. You only got 2 more exercises for a minute. Then they're going to go down to 30 seconds. Ten seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2, running in place, hand to ear. Hands pocket to ear. Ten seconds. Five seconds. We're going to do that jumping jack in 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice form, keep it together. Now you're entering into the higher intensity part. The 4 exercises, keep going. The 4 exercises remaining will only be for 30 seconds. You got about 15 more seconds left on this. That's it. Okay, this is my favorite football run. Arms out to side. The way to do this properly is to keep your feet apart and raise your knees a little bit to the sides and tense your abs. Keep your posture upright. Keep your knees a little bit outturned. Turn your toes out a little bit and pump those knees. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, A jack, 2, 1. Ten seconds. 5 seconds. Forward run, back float. 3, 2, 1, dig it in, float back. I want you to dig those knees, sprinting. Pow, 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 pow. Float. Isn't that fun? Work those arms, work those knees. I hear some panting. We're getting there. Ten seconds. The last one, another 30 seconds. High knee rises, arms overhead. Seconds, pick up the pace. Ten seconds, drive it home. 5 seconds, go, go, go. Boom, 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 boom. 3, 2, 1, yeah! That's pace. Beginning now. Ready, stop. That's your 30-second count again. So multiply that by 2. What'd you guys get? 160. 180. All right, anybody beat 180? 182? 186. All right, we have a champion. So the goal is to get your heart rate up and measure it, and then do it again with the goal of getting familiar with what that feels like to challenge your heart, get more in touch with it, and then as you start to feel that level of exertion, it becomes familiar to you, and then you can safely challenge it a little bit at a time. Any questions? Too tired. That's the way we need them. We should exercise during the classes.
Do you do any other exercises besides pace?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think pace addresses the most important consequence of aging, but it's not in itself a comprehensive program. You should probably do some endurance training, but just not at the expense of capacity. So unless you're doing something for capacity training, endurance alone may be a bad idea. But once you build capacity, you want to use it. My preference is to build capacity through pace training and then use it in sport. I would rather go play a couple sets of tennis or go, on a strenuous rafting ride. A lot of things will utilize that capacity. I rode horses the other day, and even just galloping a horse, you use muscles you didn't know you had. And life is too short to regiment everything. So I just regiment building capacity. Very rarely I'll do ultra endurance. Like once a month or 2 months, I might run you know, several miles. And I do not do weight resistance. I do body weight training though. Like I might do push-ups to develop, you know, pectoralis and shoulders. I just don't like the bench press. I prefer body weight over machines. But sometimes they can have utility, and I sometimes prescribe them, especially for rehab when people have lost muscle. But in my mind, the only thing that weight training, resistance training with machines and free weights does effectively is cause muscular hypertrophy. If what you want is you want a muscle to grow in size, it's the best thing. If you want a muscle to grow in strength, it's not very functional. You create a lot of tension. You tense the contracting muscle and the opposing muscle at the same time, which if you've ever taken any martial arts, they'll tell you that's the last thing in the world you want to do. You want to relax the opposing muscle so that you can get speed. It's velocity that creates that. And other issues with imbalance of muscular hypertrophy that I recommend using your body. I mean, your muscles are built to move your body. Yeah, and that extreme hypertrophy is probably dysfunctional that the bodybuilders get. But if what you need is muscle mass, it works for that.
I have a TRX. I noticed that I was hard to count because my heart was beat 3 times, skip 2, and irregular. Is that a worry? So it's hard to count.
Well, yeah.
Is that something?
Yeah, you may just be experiencing PVCs that are very common. We all get them as we age, and if you challenge yourself, you'll have more. But that could be some other dysrhythmia too, so you really need to differentiate them to know whether it's concerning. An EKG would it depends on what the problem is, and I haven't diagnosed it, so I don't know.
What did you say about push-ups?
I think push-ups are good overall upper body strengthening exercises, and they will train for some increased mass of your deltoid and your tricep and your pectoralis, and they don't have the problem of a bench press. The bench press is really dysfunctional, and if you do it long enough, you're going to get anterior shoulder problems. If you're doing bench presses, you either already have an anterior shoulder problem or you're headed for one, because it's not natural to lock your scapula, your shoulder blade, into a fixed position like that by pressing against the bench and then putting extreme stressor on your pectoralis and anterior deltoid. Normally what happens when you have to encounter that is your scapula, your shoulder blade, flexes around the spine and tilts like this, so that now it's directly over your shoulder in the way that an animal's front leg is, and you're built with that flexibility by design. And then when your shoulder blade rotates over that, you have a good mechanic for exerting force there. When you force that down flat, and then you have your weight plus the weight of whatever you're lifting, holding it in that adducted position, all of the stress applies there. Sooner or later, you're going to tear the rotator cuff, or you're going to get tendinitis there, and everybody I've ever known that did bench presses for long enough have an anterior shoulder problem.
Yoga in general. Yoga is something in general.
Yeah, I think particularly the way they taught me in India when I was there studying Ayurvedic medicine, very health enhancing, a lot of respect for that tradition. What they do here with all that extreme stretching, and it's not always the same thing. Yeah, I don't think your hips are really made to bend that way, are they? You know, mine don't. Yes?
That's okay. So if this was our baseline starting program, routine, you do that every 2 days, every 3 days, and then the same until you feel like you can do more, and then in which way would you increase it? Faster as you go, or?
Yeah. The answer is yes.
Yes and yes and yes.
Yes, I would do something like that, but the pace is a principle that you adapt to what you're doing and how you're responding to it. Even just doing that once a week has some benefit. When we were testing pace in those groups, we found that it looked like doing pace twice a week made changes faster than once a week. 3 times a week did faster than that. And beyond that, we couldn't really prove. 4 times a week may be a little bit better, but maybe not statistically significant.
And the way
And-
to increase.
Confidential peers.
I think it's probably more than 3 times a week as maximal change per week. You're probably more at 4 or 5 times a week at maximal change. Now, if you're looking at the amount of change per minute doing it, then it may be more efficient to do it 3 times a week. You're spending less time for nearly identical change.
We should shoot for 50% increase each time.
Oh, heck no, no.
But you said 7. Why you did 7? And you said it would start with 16 pause per minute.
Yeah, but you said
Why double that?
50%. Yeah,
Oh,
but each time you would look for just a small incremental increase. And as a matter of fact, I never try to do pace as hard as I can. I always want to have some reserve. Pace is about progressively increasing the challenge. So you want to sandbag a little bit. Leave a little bit of reserve to make sure that the next time you can do a little bit more. Because I believe, I can't prove this, but I believe from my measurements that your body somehow can detect what is different. It negates what you have done before, but when you apply a challenge that is in some degree different, it notices that this is a new challenge and it responds to it. So you want to continue, yeah. It's like if you beat your horse half to death to try to get it to run, no more beating will do anything. But if you give it a little bit of stimulus, then you still have some left to do it again. So,
More than double that. It went from 70 to 160.
yeah.
Is that okay or not? I just did it 100 from 70.
How do you feel?
I feel okay.
You just answered your question.
So what is my...
It's individualized. How far you should do it depends on you. And as you do it, you'll get better at gearing how intense that is, how it feels to you. This is an important part of pace. It teaches you to be your own trainer. If you will just commit to the principle of doing a little bit of something more, not duration, but some measure of intensity, and then you do that for a period of time until you can hardly do that anymore. It's hard to increase that. It's hard to set that resistance on the bicycle any higher. So then you do cyclic periodicity and you go to a different parameter and you start easy. You want to start easy if it's new, because remember, that'll give you more room to advance that, and it only takes a tiny little incremental increase for your body to notice that you're challenging it with something new. You get it?
So it's very individual.
I went through a period where when I would work out like one of these sessions and then stop for several seconds after it's done, I'd get lightheaded. I've heard athletes complain of that too. Do you know what causes that? Is that a normal thing? I don't
Yeah,
grown out of it.
it's almost certainly caused by deficiency of blood flow to the brain. And if that gets bad enough, you're going to pass out. So when you experience that, that's your signal to back off a little bit.
Well, I learned how much I could do, so I just
See,
came
that's
to the
how
edge of it.
yes, that's how it works. Yeah,
And it's over the last 3 months, it's kind of gone away.
yeah.
So that's training, I guess.
And then if you trained hard enough, you might bring it back, but then that would be your point that to back off a
I
little
haven't
bit.
been able to, but I haven't tried very hard yet.
Yeah, maybe you won't. Yeah.
Back in the day, didn't you used to say that the heartbeat should go up after you stop briefly?
Back in the day, you're an old-time pace. Yeah, we still say that. that if you're effectively challenging yourself, especially if you're used to it, we like to see you create an oxygen debt. By oxygen debt, I mean you're using more oxygen per unit time than you're capable of providing through your heart, your dilation of your blood vessels, and through your lungs. So that because you have an oxygen debt, your body has to now recover from that by getting additional oxygen, more oxygen than you're going to use during the next time period, next minute or so. So your heart rate will continue to go up in response to that debt, trying to recover. And that's a really good measurement of the intensity of the challenge. It's also that feeling, you know, which again you'll get more intuitive about. After you stop, you may notice that you start to pant harder after you stop. Remember how in gym class they would tell you, walk it off, and you'd want to just stand there and you're like, I didn't feel that bad when I was sprinting for the touchdown, but now that I stopped, you just can't get enough breath. That's the oxygen debt. And that's a good indication. When you feel that, pat yourself on the back. You created an oxygen debt, and that's going to tell your body that you needed to get more oxygen than you were capable of. So now while you rest, it gets to work on building bigger lungs, dilating your blood vessels faster, and building big cardiac reserve.
Is that related to the lactic acid or no?
No, not much. Lactic acid turns out to be just a buildup of waste product, yeah, and yes. But we used to think that was a bad thing. Now we know lactic acid is a powerful inducer of muscle growth and of vasodilation. So the buildup of lactic acid till your muscle aches is not necessarily a bad thing. And again, it's like the dizziness. If you do that repeatedly, you'll find it very hard to continue to generate that pain. Your body gets immune to it, because you practiced it, so now instead of generating the lactic acid, you have more energy stored there for aerobic metabolism.
I like what you said about the benefits of body weight versus weights. I was just wondering, the one weight exercise, let's say, is very fundamental and important, is the deadlift. It's like very hard to, you can't really reduce that in body weight. Do you think there's something special about the deadlift?
No. No, and I think you can reproduce it. The way you reproduce that is with an explosive jump. You touch the ground, and then as you come out of it, you explode towards the sky with your arms and your head stretched up as you go. You're working, the thighs, the quads, the glutes, the calves, and your extensors of the back in much the same way. What you're looking for is intensity of exertion, and you can do it through burdening it with resistance, but you can also do it through acceleration. There's resistance from your body's inertia as you're trying to accelerate, and if you train for that and you get better and better at getting that explosive movement, you'll get better and better at loading that muscle with resistance.
Like a plyometric type.
Exactly. And if you see those guys that do it, they can get bulky.
Jump to this high kind of.
And he has humongous thighs from that. Yeah.
Take one more question.
Okay.
I have a question unrelated to the pace.
No.
Talking about the water, we're all drinking a dead water. People are saying that ionized water with hydrogen available.
I'm sorry, I'm not following.
We are drinking a dead water, not a live water, they say. And ionization of the water with the hydrogen available, and also increasing the pH of the water, because we are having most of the acid pH.
What I want pure, natural, unadulterated water. I don't believe in manipulating the water. Yes, it's dead. It's supposed to be dead. It will be, useful in making me alive, but there is no life in the water that I know of. Yeah.
By raising the pH also, the water gets weaker.
You mean making it alkaline? Yeah. I just believe in natural water. I don't believe in tampering with it. I don't believe that we know better than nature. And that whole argument about ionization and alkalinization, it seems to defy, how we would have gotten those in a natural world. If I'm drinking Fiji water, drinking, pure natural water, that's the best I know how to do.
Purified water.
Yeah, again, I prefer natural water. Yeah, and when you put it through filters, you may be removing minerals that we are accustomed to getting. Yeah, well, I don't want it to be too clean, because if you clean everything out of it, then
the U.S. water supply contains heavy metals, all kinds of drugs, and all kinds of chemicals in it.
Well, I don't think I think there are a lot of sources for that, but you know, from my experience, we went through all of this stuff over which water purifier to buy, and I found that the water that comes to my house in Florida, about 12 miles from here, I put against any water in the world. So, you know, it comes from the Florida aquifer. And as far as I can tell, that water is still clean and perfectly fit to drink. Yeah. I recommend pure natural water. Anything you do to it, I don't like.
But if your tap water has fluoride in it, then you'd be forced to use some sort of filter.
Or bottled water. Yeah. I use natural spring water that comes in, you know, in my well. I have a well that's 90 foot deep, and you know, we tested it, we filtered it, but as far as I can tell, it's pretty good coming out of the ground there.
So you take your own water out of it?
Yeah, out of a well underneath my house. Yeah. All right, thank you.